Good morning. So I was back in the attic. I wanted to clean the track and do some running, but then I noticed that there was more damage from the hot weather. So that is even more kinked. I can't lift this section of track because it goes from that joint all the way under the bridge, which is glued down, to a joint down here. And of course it's all glued down by the ballast, even though I've lost an awful lot of ballast. So I'm just going to have to try and bend that into some sort of okay shape, but it's not good. This area is okay. There's a little curve in it, but it's not impeding movement of locomotives. And there's a little bit up here which is also kinked and moved. That's going to have to be straightened as best as I can and pinned back down again. But the worst section was here. It went on this joint. This joint was at a terrible angle. I tried lifting the track, but as the sleepers are glued down, then the rails very quickly part from the actual sleepers, and you're left with £5 worth of junk. I know people have said to me in the comments, what you need to do with your track is to lift it and trim the end by 0.5 millimeter and increase the expansion gap. No, that doesn't work. It just destroys the track. So this is going to be a difficult one to fix, especially as the ballast is still glued down in places, and this section has lifted. It really isn't very good. I'm not even certain I can fix it. You know, getting a length of track into two fixed ends, this size moved a fraction but not much. But getting a new length of track in is exceptionally difficult because you've got to bend it to get it in. And the chairs on N gauge track are very small, which is why they part company. The other problem I've had is with these risers, because these are made of polystyrene. They're not very robust, and when you start messing with them, they're not very good. So I've got a section in, and as you can see, I've got problems. I've got some serious problems here. Try it again. Everything's kinked. It's all at the wrong height, wrong angles and everything. So I've kept fiddling with it to try and see if I can get it to actually run, and finally I've got it to go past. So I thought I'd change that simple thing for a wagon with bogies and see if that makes any difference. And the wagon with bogies sailed straight through, but it is not very level, this new section. And in fact you can see the locomotive move around. I'm going to have to keep fiddling with it and sliding in pieces of cardboard underneath the rails to see if I can get it a bit squared up. But I really don't like messing with the track once it's down. As I say, I know I've had many comments telling me what to do, but if you can't do it, you can't do it. Honestly, the track is as bad as my back scene now, and the back scene is awful. I told you I wasn't a modeller. I told you I didn't have a skill level. When things like this go wrong, oh my goodness, the way it almost lurches in and hits the bridge there. And there's nothing I can do about it. I just do not have the skill. Now, one skill I do have is I'm going to have to replace the traction tyres on bodge here. I've done a locomotive recently, and I can do that. That's something that my skill can do, but track is not my skill level. Right, so while I was buying new track, I bought a new point and I bought another length of flexi, and I'm going to put in another siding up the top here. This is easy to do because obviously there's no ballast, it's not glued down. It's just a question of pulling a few pins out, shuffling things around, and we can put an additional siding in there. And then on the bottom I can put an additional siding in here. I've got space for it. I can't put one in on the far track, which goes underneath, but I can do one at the front. And in fact, if I wanted to, I could add 6 inches to the front and put in 3 additional sidings. But up here on the top there's just enough space. I can even put a point in there and bring a short siding back here. So I've got plenty of options in the fiddle yard. So now I've been tweaking with the track, then I'm going to do what I intended to do in the first place, which was to clean it all with the track rubber and run stuff on all 3 lines and make sure everything is running correctly before I continue on with the construction. So everything's fine except for the kinks and that new section I had to put in. I have in fact completed the additional sidings, and I have moved locomotives around, some from on top to the bottom and some from the bottom up onto the top. But I've got space for new locos, and of course I've still got the ballasting to do. I'm going to keep fiddling with that 1 yard section I put in until I get it a little bit better, but it's never going to be great. And now I must go and learn all of my 4-letter words for me replacing the traction tyres on bodge, because you do need a good supply of them when you're doing that job. That's it. Oh, I've obviously got to complete the canal area. The bottom's painted, and you can see there's some greenery in there. There will be a whole video on it, but for the moment I'm going to be stuck doing track fiddling as opposed to creating the canal area. Cheerio.